and the 2 has to travel. And the seer number 3 does not go anywhere. It does not change. Why it does not go anywhere? Because it is all pervading. It is pure consciousness. Look at the life. So when we recognize that we are actually seer number 3, that is a witness consciousness or pure consciousness, then this life offers only the best, the greatest opportunity at every moment, in all locations, at all places, in all relations. So the confusion, conflict, delusion, or we can say attachment, add everything, ignorance, due to the absence of discernment and dispassion. There is an absence, so there is an attachment, there is an ignorance. Then I claim that I am the seer number 1, I am the seer number 2, and then the problem comes. So here the master says that we have a kind of a mixed knowledge. Seer number 1, we discussed last time, relationship between the sense organs and the external world of name and the form, time and the space, relations, people, and places. Seer number 2, the mind becomes the seer of all the sense organs, and the sense organs are the seer of the external world. So here is the seer number 2. But when we are upset, we feel we have a problem and the ignorance, who knows that I do not know? Who knows that I know? It is the seer number 3. And the seer number 3 is what we say the witness consciousness, is what we say real I, what we say sakshi. In Buddhism we say vipassana, to see. Vipassana, to see. Vipassana simply means to see. Vipassana, and also there is one more word in Jainism. So they all follow the same. Question comes, I'm a seer number 1, I'm enjoying, I have all the pleasures. I have tripti and tushti. So why I'm looking for it? Because it does not, behind that pleasure there is a pain. So there is a confusion. There is a confusion, there is an ignorance, there is an attachment. So there is a chance, when I am a seer number 1, there is always a chance that I have an attachment, I have a detachment, I have a delusion. So then what happens? What the seer number 2 does, once the mind gets an attachment and the delusion and the wrong perception, in the absence of discernment and dispassion, this is known as superimposition. What happens due to the confusion, conflict, delusion, and ignorance? That is known as, in one word we can say, superimposition. We are running near what is not required and desired. for the sake of peace and happiness. We are running away from what is desired and what is required. What is desired and required? The seer number three, I am the real I, pure consciousness. So we forget that. That is why we forget, because there is this superimposition. Seer number one and two says, here is this is the life. This is all the life. Live that life. Have that pleasure. Go into pain. Marry 100 times. Have lot of money. But problem is that the money is not going to keep me happy all the time. Money can treat my illnesses if I am ill, but the money cannot buy happiness. Place cannot buy happiness. Time cannot buy happiness. That is the problem. That is what the problem we have, and this problem continues throughout our life. I think you are uh, an engineer, so physics, especially. Physics wants to know the cause and effect relationship. So, if we find the cause of this knowledge is Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasan, the cause of that knowledge. Cause. Cause of the knowledge of what? Cause of the knowledge of my real self. Because ignorance is there, the delusion is there, so hence Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan are the ways. So, what exactly is the nature of this knowledge? Nature of the knowledge, mouse, process, mechanism, physics. So, we always try to live in the cause and effect relationship. Obviously, mind, sense organ has to look for cause and effect relationship. How far is this place where you are going? How long it will take? Yeah, obviously, cause and effect relationship. But the nature of the knowledge in Eastern wisdom is an understanding that what is real and what is unreal. So, our master says that real is not the part, product, it is not the product of anything, it is not the part of the anything, it is not the production, and it is unchanging, and it is all pervading. That is how we define and understand real. And unreal is nothing but the superimposition. The blueness of the sky is superimposition, the water in the mirage is superimposition, the wave in the water is superimposition. The individual, the mind says, I am an individual, this is my name, this is my form. I am an individual, this is my name and the form. But this name and the form as an individual is constantly changing. How it can be real? How it can be real? So, the way the mind borrows the consciousness first, I will take this later. So, just to, because the reference has come, the way the mind has borrowed the consciousness from the seer number three, then what happened? This mind created an I thought, and that I thought has become an individual. Fact is that there is no individual.
But it's I am thought.
I am is a thought, and you are also is a thought. So this I am thought becomes an individual, and you thought becomes non I, and that is how we live in the world. This is how we live in this world. The moment I have created this world through the mind, then this mind starts searching peace and happiness in the world where it is not. So we are running after what is not desired and required. That is why, for the sake of understanding, seer number one are my sense organs to the external world. Seer number two, the sense organs are seen by the mind, so the mind is the seer. The seer number three is unchanging, it is an absolute seer. It does not change, it does not become the seen. There is no chance. It cannot become the seen. So when it does not become the seen, we have to understand the very nature of the seer and see that whether we identify with the seer. So what our masters have found out, the moment we have an identification with the seer, the suffering comes to an end. We don't see that I am as a real I suffers from the pain, suffers from the anxiety, suffers from the duality, suffers from the delusion. And that is what is known as awakening. So at every step we need discernment and dispassion. So discernment and dispassion in these three seers we find that the seer number one and seer number two, the sense organs and the mind as a seer, are formed. But the seer number is never formed, it remains as a knower. Your your eyes do not say that, come on, I am seeing you. It is formed, it is superimposed, the idea. I'm seeing you. No, I'm not seeing you. My sense organs are seeing you. My my ears are listening to you. So what is the superimposition? The I-ness. I-ness. That I-ness comes and says, I see you. Ah, I've seen, seeing is believing. So our master says that we should understand how the seers are formed and how they function. It's all a matter of awareness. Now I see you. Yes, let me keep seeing. So I'm not stopping, I'm not closing my eyes, I'm not creating any problem to the sense organs. I just become aware. I just become aware. So seer number one dissolves. It does not mean that I stop seeing you. I keep seeing you, but now I am aware. So that awareness drops the delusion between of the seer number one and the seen. So the master supports with an argument and the reasoning that tell us how the sense organs are formed. It is purely a matter. That is why medical science is able to understand. If it is of the nature of the consciousness, they could not understand. They have no way. So each and every sense organ, so I live in that extraordinary awareness where I see, where I am aware of the seer number one is formed due to the identification of the matter, but all sense organs are fundamentally a matter, and it is very clear matter is inert, non living. I can only refer I-ness where there is a consciousness. Mouse cannot say, here I am. So the sense organ is also a matter. It means it cannot refer itself as a I. So for communication, I see you through my eyes. That's okay. I'm using. But that I is not real. Mind is matter. Same thing with the seer number two. Mind is matter, inert, and keep in your mind and contemplate and reflect. Anything that is matter cannot know itself because it is not conscious. So it cannot know itself, it cannot know others. Matter cannot know itself and cannot know others. It is same thing like the moon borrows the light from the sun. So the mind borrows the consciousness from the real I or the seer number three, and the same consciousness is borrowed to this, given to the sense organs. The moment there is a consciousness, sense organ claims I see you. Mind claims I think. So in Upanishads, when the mind borrows the consciousness and claims I am the knower, it is known as reflected consciousness. As moon has a reflected light from the sun. Consciousness is given to the mind. So it becomes the seer number two. Consciousness is given to the sense organ so that it becomes the seer number three. Now we are moving in a different direction. So once we are 100% clear, it demands only contemplation. It does not demand any kind of a practice. So seer number two, that is your conscious mind means the mind that has a consciousness. Tall guy means the guy that is tall. So tallness is an attribute. So here seer number two is responsible for making the body and also making the sense organs conscious. Now we have to find one thing. Okay, when you say that, Master says that I see you, and if I continue to live in ignorance, then I have not to discern, I have not to do the Viveka and Vairagya. But if I am doing Viveka and Vairagya, The first level, I recognize that all the sense organs are made up of the matter. Very good. Matter cannot become conscious, cannot know itself, and so cannot know others. That is also good. But I cannot ignore and reject that it is my sense organs that is able to recognize you, see you. Seer number three does not need to see anyone. It is perfect, it is complete. Seer number two gives the consciousness to the mind, to the sense organs, and see. So when you say that sense organs are is matter, matter is inert, matter is unconscious. So how come still the same sense organ is able to see you? Consciousness does
Sensory,
not see.
sense organ only see. You it's over the aids which mind give.
Mind gives the consciousness to the sense organ. So who is seeing? Sense organ cannot see, it is matter. Mind cannot see, it is matter. Seer number three does not need to see anyone. It is all pervading. It is of the nature of peace and happiness. Look at it. So their argument for the sake of understanding, they use the word, our masters use the word golaka. First step, mind borrows the consciousness, so mind becomes conscious. Consciousness is given to the sense organs, so sense organs becomes conscious. So in that consciousness present in the eyes, for example, is limits itself because of the eyes, because of the ears, because of the taste. That limited consciousness, due to superimposition, eyes are able to see the name and the form, the ears are able to get the knowledge of the sound, tongue is able to get the knowledge of the taste, touch, the skin. So we refer them as gods and goddesses. Unless we clearly understand Golaka, it is known as the Golaka. That point in the eyes receives consciousness so that senses become the seer number one. So that the moon is able to send the light on the earth. That is why we say we have millions of gods and goddesses. So we need not to go to the temple to pray those gods and goddesses. We continue to pray the moment I see you. One thing is very clear, anything that is seer, it has to do with the consciousness. So that consciousness is limited. Like you have a small hole in the wall, and then you look into that hole, outside, you see the world. So the eyes can see the name and the form, the ears can see, can hear the sound, the touch, I can feel the skin. But it is all happening due to the limited consciousness. That is why, should I jump to the higher? Yes. So that is why one Upanishad says that seer number three is the eye of the eye. That seer number three is the ear of the ear. It is not the physical ear is able to hear any sound. It is not the physical sense organ. A physical eyes is not able to see. It is the presence of that consciousness in a limited form is able to see you. So the seer number three is always present. So why you have a problem? Problem is that you identify that sense organs. Seer number one, I am the seer number one, I am the seer number two, and that is the problem. I jumped here and there, so I have jumped very high and then I will come down.
But seer number two create I because there is different
Yeah,
sense organs
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they able to reflect e-
That is
each
what
other.
is one side it is able to reflect at the same time. At the same time, this mind becomes the seer number two of the sense organ. Also, they both become seer number. Conscious mind becomes an individual. Any individual is a seer, seer number two, and the seer number one are false because they also become seen. The way seer number two makes all the sense organ as a seen, the way seer number one makes the entire world as a scene. I know mouse sense organ is the seer plus the mind. Now, mouse doesn't say, I know you. It cannot say. Same way, sense organ cannot say to the mind, I also know you.
So mind have to collect information from all sense organ and then make decision its mouse.
Here makes a decision with because eyes as a sense organ becomes the scene and mind says sense organ picks up the name and the form,
Mhm.
ear and the skin picks up the texture, it is solid. So all the information are processed by the mind and then we say it is a mouse. Lot of things are happening. Lot of things. So what exactly is the problem of seer number three is never formed? Mind is matter, subtle matter, sense organs are also a physical matter. So we are trying to understand how the seer number one and the seer number two is formed, whether it is real or unreal. So the first argument is that seer number 1 becomes the seen also. So whosoever becomes the seer and the seen cannot be real. Only the seer that cannot be formed. Consciousness is never formed. So that is the seer number 3. That is pure consciousness. That is what the real I is, and it is self existent. Now, what do you mean by it? The seer number 3 is never formed. It is self existent. What is self existence? It exists by itself. What does it mean by it exists by itself? That it is not a part and the product of anything. It is not the part and the product of anything. Very good. When it is not the part and product of anything, then seer number 1 and the 2 interchange their functions. They become the seer, they become the seen. So they have created an idea that I am an individual with reference to the body. But the fact is that I am not an individual. I am just a pure consciousness. So the mind has created a limited entity that I am there and you are there. So it has created a limited entity in place and time. But the mind does not want to be limited. So there is an ignorance. So ignorance sees that if I become the richest person, I will be happy. So I become the Bill Gates, but I am not happy. So the idea of possessing, owning the things in the world comes out of ignorance. So the more we possess, the more we are attached, the more we are in delusion about the world, greater the ignorance, and there is always a chance to live into that state. In order to understand little deeper, Master says, still there is a confusion. Now comes the real thing. So we take up the question of a seer number 2, that is the conscious mind. So the Master says this mind is of two types. Mind is a substance. Mind is a substance, is matter. We say subtle body. We say subtle matter. Mind is also a thought. Thought comes and goes. Mind is like also a river where waves rise and fall. One is substance, other is, you see. That is why we need to have a clarity about these principles. And again, understand this is all a model. Model is model to understand, but model is not a real thing. We are trying to understand through a model. So, mind is a substance, subtle body, matter. Mind is like a river, it has two aspects, rise and fall of the thoughts. No, no, I do not understand. Torch. Switch on the torch in the dark. What happens? You see the light. So, light is one aspect, and the material torch is another aspect. you keep holding the material torch in your hand. But the second aspect of the torch is the light, beam. See? So these thoughts are the beams. It is constantly happening, constantly happening, constantly happening. On the basis of that matter, subtle matter. So material mind remains inside the physical body. And the thoughts are traveling anywhere and everywhere. I'm going to Slovakia. Thoughts are traveling everywhere. Are you getting it? We have to contemplate
But
and reflect. Oh, this is what is happening. The moon as a matter remains at the same place, but the light.
but our travel in our imagination, no
Uh,
more.
uh, yeah,
The
whether it's an
thoughts
imagination or.
travel.
What did you say?
The thoughts can travel only in our imagination.
Yes, but the thoughts travels. One thing is that the thought rise, thought fall, thought, there is no thought, there is a thought, there is a good thought, there is a bad thought. So they are constantly rising, falling, moving. So when I imagine, when I say I'm going to Britain, so that Britain is imagined in the mind, but it is outside. I imagined I am married.
Yeah,
Material
for the
mind.
seer,
So
for
what I,
seer number three, there is no difference. Is it thought or is it the material object?
yeah, but we are trying to understand the very essence of the mind, how it functions, so that we are clear while living from moment to moment that it is not the real seer. The material mind remains in the body, and there is also another reason. There is a material mind always remains in the physical body, and the mind is a thought, expands and contracts. Mind is a thought, expands and contracts, like the rays of a sun. So when my mind says, I see you, pay attention. I see you. So that thought has gone out and covered this object which is known as you. I know the mouse, that thought, because thought must contain consciousness. So it has covered, envelope. So it has put the mouse into the envelope and it says, I know mouse, or I do not know. Both parts are inert. Now, we are going slowly. Both parts of the mind are inert. But seer number 3 makes these two parts conscious so that I say, I know you. Here I am, here you are.
So one thought lead to the other thought.
Yeah. One thought, other thought. So that I thought, then you thought. But the material part of the mind remains in the physical body to keep the identification that here I am. Thought goes and puts you into the envelope and says that I know you, but both are inert. then how do we recognize? Oh, seer number three, consciousness, illumines. It is present in the presence of a consciousness. That is why I say, here I am and here you are. But the fact is that it is only pure consciousness. That is what a beautiful analogy and an example given to by. This is why this is seer number three is Sakshi. It is a witness consciousness. It is real. So this knower number three or the seer number three illumines the whole mind. It illumines the whole mind. It illumines both the aspects of the mind. That is why one part of the mind is I, the other part of the mind is you. Because there is a constant identification and we are not able to understand it clearly. So, if we do not understand, we do not discern. So, then many masters have developed a system which is known as mantra yoga, kundalini yoga, hatha yoga, long list. We directly understand, we keep that understanding by discernment and dispassion, the highest. We don't need to go to the Kundalini, Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga. But yes, we can follow that path, we can take the help in order to keep our mind away from what is not desired. That is okay. But to get obsessed with it is one problem. Second problem, that we are not learning the supernatural powers or the mystic yoga. We just want to know who am I. So when I want to know who am I, we are not thinking at all that can I levitate, can my body be lifted? Come on, I am not the body, I am 100% clear. And it is better to fly in a plane than lifting the body. You may feel those powers, that's a totally different thing. But our goal is not that. So when we live at a lower consciousness, then we follow the path of this Kundalini and the Hatha Yoga and the Raja Yoga, etc. It does not mean that we should not take the help of those tools whenever it is required. We will take the help of those. When the seer number three, now another part. When the seer number three illumines the mind, it is called ahankara. The I, the seer number three, gets a shape in the mind is known as ego. I, I will hold on to this idea. So now this is what happens. What has happened? First, what we did, everything is clear. What is clear? The mind has two parts, material part and the thought part. I gave an example of a river and river, etc. So I also told you the moment I say I know you, material part is present inside, because if the material part will leave the physical body, then this body does not exist. Then I cannot recognize you. That is what is known as the death in the world. So one part has to remain present. And the second part, in the form of a thought, goes there, it envelops and it recognizes. Very good. So, what we are saying here, Seer number 3 illumines both. So I recognize you, you recognize me. But now another part. No. Question is, how do I recognize you? So the master is answering from the Upanishad that seer number three illumines the whole mind. So what is whole mind? Material part, thought part. It illumines the whole. So in Sanskrit we say aham kara. Aham means ego, kara means shape. So that seer number 3 gets a shape in the mind, is known as ego. Fact is, it is already a seer number 3. It is seer number 3. But
So when
I recognize as this I with the mind and the name and the form and the age and the whole impressions. Again, I'm repeating.
so the seer number three illuminate the all mind, include everything, and because this it limited and became ego.
Become ego because it gets a shape in the form, and because that ego or the seer number 2 says, you know that I know the sense organ and I know the word. You do not know. It tells to the seer number 3, you don't know anything. I know everything. So I'm the real seer. Come on. And that is the delusion. So it means where there is a false, there is a real self also. Without the real self, the false cannot be present. And we fail to see the seer number 3. How can you imagine the blueness without the sky? How can you have a mirage water? If there is no mirage, there is no water. How can you conceive of the waves without water? So if I have the ability to see the real in the now this another point that is another in the Upanishad, we will go deeper. That what is that point? That point is, yeah, I said that this false cannot exist without real self. False. Because false is non existent. But it appears as a false on the real self, superimposed. That is the problem. When we have a de-superimposition, the real self reveals itself. Then who will know the real self? Only the real self will know the real self. We don't need the mind. Why? Say, for example, the object is too far from my eyes, so I don't have a clear picture. Because it is my sense organ, eye is limited. So when I use any instrument to know anything, whether it is electron microscope or a telescope, you use any instrument to receive the knowledge. One thing is very clear, the knowledge of that object will never be complete. because there is always an interference of the instrument of knowledge. So when we say transcend the mind, so we are saying what is right. Let the real self know the real self by itself. Finished. We are saying the same thing. The material part of the mind remains inside this physical body so that this physical body continues to remain as a one unit. The other part of the mind travels outside, rise like a river, like a light of the torch, like the rays of a sun, and it gathers the knowledge. Should I say, think of it and believe this and follow this. Only the real self is able to know or receive the 100% knowledge. No other instrument, including the eyes and the mind and the senses, can get the right knowledge. How do you say that? Why do you say that? I see you. What it means, I see the front of your body. And I create an idea about the back of your body. I don't see directly. How can I claim that I see you directly? I see the part of you directly, but not whole. Give me any example that the sense organ can see the whole, the mind can see the whole. But we say it is a direct perception. This is we say, I see you, you see me, it is a direct perception. That is one way to get the knowledge. Second way to get the knowledge is indirect perception. You are speaking, my eyes are closed, so I inference, I infer. The entire modern science is based on the inference. Have you seen electron, proton, and neutron? Inference. Inference. Matter, energy, particle. We also get the knowledge by absence of it. Do you see the mouse in my hand? No. What do you see? You see my hand. You don't see the mouse. How can you say that it is an absence of mouse? I don't see the mouse. So it means you have a knowledge about the mouse, you have a knowledge about the hand. Then only you can infer and you can conclude. They all come from, all this knowledge is coming from the mind and the sense organ. I see you through my sense organ. I don't see you through my sense organ. In both the cases, the seer number 3 is always present. Consciousness is present. Without the presence of the consciousness, nothing can happen. No knowledge can be gained. Can you get the knowledge? No. See that? No knowledge. Why? Because that consciousness is the real self. It is of the nature of knowledge. Where consciousness is, it is of the nature of knowledge. It is of the nature of existence. What exists? Eyes exist. How? because of the existence. What is that existence? Seer number 3 is the real self. My mind exists. It is not existence. Existence means it can never be formed. It is always present. It is always present. So then our master concludes that it is the real self alone knows the real self because it is of the nature of the consciousness, and only real self can know the thing. Mind cannot know the thing, sense organ cannot, and whatever they know, it is partial. 100 years ago, science says matter consists of atoms. 80 years, 20 years past, they said atom consists of electron, proton, and neutron. Another 20 years past, they said it is nothing but the particles behaves like a wave. Another 20 years past, now the same atom, same particle, same wave is nothing but the energy. Einstein came. What do you mean? 100 years ago, that matter was not energy? You put the energy into it, and that is what you say the progress in the science, or it is a correction of your wrong perception. You corrected your perception. You had a wrong knowledge 100 years ago, and now you have corrected this knowledge. You have corrected this knowledge, which you say is a progress of the science. What do you mean by it? Only the real self can receive the absolute knowledge. There is no other way. Mind is an imperfect instrument. Sense organs can have a partial perception. You can tell me any branch of the science, but they are scared of saying it is a correction of error. So they have polished it, painted. It is a progress in science. Can you believe that 100 years ago atom was not energy? It was energy at that time also. You did not change anything. Science did not change anything.
Yeah.
So you remember the story, a scientist created a baby, and he went to the God, and God, he said, see, look at me. I created a baby. So God asked that from where you collected the raw material. Raw material from the nature. I created the nature. First go back, create the basic material, and then only you can create the baby. What do you mean? We are not criticizing the science, we are understanding. It's a partial knowledge. It cannot get
Yeah.
to the final truth. It cannot help you to get the absolute truth. Anything, any branch, physics, chemistry, biology, astronomy, you pick up any branch of the science. What I will get by knowing that the human form existed billions of years ago. I have made a statement. No, science made a statement. Very good. Thank you. Very good. Count billion. Mind created an idea that it is a billion years. Now put one. How many zeros? What knowledge I'm getting it? What is that knowledge? What do you mean by it? What do you mean by it? that the earth existed billions of years. What do you mean? What I get? I live hardly 100 years. Be practical, be pragmatic. So, relative knowledge continues. It has lot of corrections and errors, and it goes on. There is no. But yes, science has done remarkable job in the material life. No problem. We should use it.